Welcome back. You're watching The Full View and taking a look now at an issue that needs some serious intervention and has for the past few years, and that's the Western Cape province, which has the greatest shortage of police officers in the country, with 85% of police stations in that province greatly understaffed. The Public Service Commission, or the PSC, was tasked with investigating this last year, and they've made some key recommendations to the South African Police Service to address the issues of personnel practices and shortages. To talk to us a bit more about this, I'm joined now from our Pretoria studios by Doctor Bruno Luthuli from the Public Service Commission. Doctor, welcome. Thank you for your time. Let me start by asking the simple question. Why is it that the Western Cape still has the greatest shortage of police officers in the country and is still facing such huge constraints, especially seeing as this issue of policing in the Western Cape has been in the spotlight for years?
Ma'am, we undertook this particular investigation as a result, as a Public Service Commission, of Western Cape regarding the shortage of Western Cape. As the Public Service Commissioner, responsible of values every public servant should abide by. We also monitor, evaluate the organization and administration and public personnel management within the public service. How this particular investigation came to us, we are, in terms of the Constitution, can undertake investigations or research on our own accord, or when we are approached. We therefore undertook this particular investigation, which we have submitted to the Western Cape with particular recommendations.
All right, so if you talk us through some of these recommendations that you made to the South African Police Service, talk us through these, and importantly, how will they be implemented? Because I think that's the big issue here, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Actually, our recommendations are based on Section 207 of the Constitution, which requires that a provincial commissioner of police puts together a plan on the province, which plan he then needs to actually submit to the legislature, specifically the portfolio committee that they are responsible for. In terms of that plan need to indicate and be based on equitable distribution of resources, in this case personnel and police services, and that needs to be within the provincial budget. And there's a particular instrument also that the South African Police Service has been using, which is based on some theory. It's called theoretical human resource determination instrument. So that is how they do it. And then the next that is required of a provincial commissioner is that he takes or she takes that particular plan to the national commissioner, which also is in line with the Section 207 of the Constitution and Section 12 of the SAPS Act. Once that has been taken to the national commissioner, the national commissioner follows that up with monitoring and evaluation of the implementation of the plan. And that particular plan needs to be on a 6-monthly basis, be reported to the portfolio committee.
All right, so these recommendations and these steps, as you say, have to be taken to police commissioners and representatives. But in your findings, what do you think the police minister, what do you think the provincial and national policing commissions are doing to sort of hinder the progress or help the progress?
It's very difficult to say whether they are hindering that progress or doing something. One thing you need to understand that the allegations that their personnel is short is not something that is unique to the Department of Police. All public service departments have been asked through cabinet and through National Treasury guideline on the reduction of staff because of budgetary constraints that the entire government is experiencing. Yes, as you have rightly said before, that there is some sort of a need for this, for something like this to happen, but we found that we are not very far from the other reports. There's a number of them that have either looked at the theoretical instrument or looked at the distribution of police and the availability of police personnel in the different departments. One could remember one of them was compiled by us looking at the detectives in the SAPS, and another commission of inquiry that looked at Khayelitsha specifically. I think it was headed by Advocate Pikoli. Actually, we are in terms of our findings, think that there is an under allocation in terms of personnel resources in that particular province. However, it is not the only province or the only department that is experiencing this.
All right, you mentioned budgetary constraints, and I suppose another issue to contend with, which you listed in your report, is that based on national expenditure, by 2020, at least 2,000 jobs at the South African Police Service could be cut. Is that right?
No, actually, the cut would have led to 191,000 personnel, which is a decrease from 194,000, a 3,000 personnel decrease that they have undertook to actually abide by. And that cut is not only directed at the Western Cape, is for the entire country.
All right, so looking at this issue, before we run out of time, just very briefly, this issue of resources and staff shortages, what, in your opinion, is the ideal scenario in terms of resources that should be placed at all our police stations to allow them to function properly?
We have not looked at the ideal, because their determination is based on a nationwide allocation. That allocation that is given to provincial commissioners is what the provincial commissioners work on the basis of their budgetary allocation and the use of that particular theoretical instrument, which is just based on some ideal situation, whereas we are not living in an ideal situation because of the budgetary constraints and all the other constraints. Unfortunately, we could not get the provincial commissioner to sort of explain to us how they have arrived at these particular numbers. But I'm sure when the provincial commissioner goes to Parliament to present his plan, then he's going to be able to respond to some of the issues that are mentioned in the report. Besides that, in terms of government's requirements, it's not all posts that need not be filled. Those posts that are funded and there is a need for them, and they are not earmarked for abolishment need to be filled within a period of 6 months.
All right, Dr. Bruno Luthuli, thanks so much for your time. We'll leave it there. He's from the Public Service Commission, and they did a report on the Western Cape, which has the greatest shortage of police officers in the country.